Good evening, it's 5:30 p.m. on Wednesday, September 25th. I'll call to order this regular meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls City School District Board of Education. Ms. Osler, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Coco?
Here.
Mr. Gomez?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mrs. Schaefer? Here. Ms. White?
Here.
Thank you. Item B is approval of the agenda. Number 1 is a motion to approve the agenda. It's recommended the Board of Education approves the agenda of the September 25th, 2024 Board of Education meeting. Action by the Board of Education, adoption of a consent agenda means that all items are adopted by one singular motion unless a member of the Board of Education, treasurer, or superintendent requests that any such item be removed from the consent agenda and voted upon separately.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer? Aye. Ms. White?
Aye.
Before we move forward, I just want to say we're missing one person tonight. Kylie Dean, who usually records our meeting, is a student here at the high school, and I think as so many people in the community know, underwent a very tragic accident in her vehicle the other day. It's been wonderful to see the outpouring of support from our community for Kylie, but as a Board of Education, we miss her tonight and we send her all our best wishes for healing on her journey. Item C is our opening ceremony. Number 1 is informational items. This meeting is a meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It is not a public community meeting, although there are opportunities for public participation. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic found on the meeting agenda, the individual must complete a registration form found inside the attendance notebook and present it to the treasurer. Following the introduction of the topic by the board president, followed by board discussion, the individual will be recognized. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic not found on the meeting agenda, they must notify the superintendent and or board president of the topic no later than 3 business days in advance of the meeting. These individuals may share their comments during the board business portion of the agenda. In both cases, the individual will preface comments by announcement of their name and address and limit comments to 3 minutes. All statements should be directed to the board president. No person may address or question board members individually. In addition, in public session, the board will not hear complaints about school personnel nor against any person connected with the school system. An unabridged board agenda for this meeting can be found on your electronic device at the address shown on the screen, and for your convenience, hard copies of the board agenda may be found on the table by the sign-in book. The next policy committee meeting is October 3rd, 2024 at 4:30 p.m. in the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education offices at 405 Talmadge Road, Suite 2201. And the next regularly scheduled meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education is Wednesday, October 9th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. right here in the Cuyahoga Falls High School Library. Now for our Pledge of Allegiance, and welcome Mrs. Schaefer.
Please stand at your floor and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome. Our vision, Cuyahoga Falls City Schools, the hub of our community, committed to a culture of caring. We innovate, we create, we personalize education for all. Our mission, every student, every day, every opportunity. The board's strategic plan goals, is this still me?
Mhm.
Thank you, I'm sorry. The board's strategic plan goals are as follows. School safety. We aspire to have a welcoming environment that ensures that physical and social well-being needs of every student and staff member are met. Academic growth. We aspire to have significant growth through personalized education for all students. We aspire to improve graduation rates so that our students are prepared for employment, enrollment, or enlistment. Engagement, inclusion, and diversity. We will ensure that every student has access to resources when they need it in order to be successful. Technology and systems integration. We aspire to create safe, secure, and efficient technology systems to support high-quality teaching, learning, and district operations.
Thank you, Mrs. Schaefer. Item D is presentations. There are 3 this evening. Number 1 is the awarding of a diploma. It's recommended the Board of Education grants a Cuyahoga Falls High School diploma to the following individual who has now completed the requirements stated by the State of Ohio for high school graduation from our 2021 cohort, Brooklyn Marie Kinker.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? We congratulate Ms. Kinker on her graduation. We're very proud of all of our alumni. Please call the roll, Ms. Osley.
Mr. Gomez.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer.
Aye.
Ms. White.
Aye.
Ms. Coco.
Aye.
Thank you. Presentation number 2 is our 2024 30 for the Future Award recipient, and I'll invite up Mrs. Merkel.
Two speeches in 2 nights. This is a lot. Sarah, can you come on up? Well, good evening. I'm excited to be here this evening to recognize an exceptional individual, our very own school social worker, Sierra Oden, who was selected as a 2024 30 for the Future honoree. Since 2007, the Greater Akron Chamber has selected outstanding professionals aged 25 to 39 who demonstrate significant contributions to the Greater Akron area through their leadership, community involvement, and forward-looking vision. I still vividly remember Sierra's interview for the school social work position. Despite being on vacation, she connected via Zoom from her hotel conference center. When someone unexpectedly entered the room during the interview, she remained completely composed and effortlessly tackled every question we posed. From that moment, I knew we needed her on our team. If she could handle that stressful situation with such grace, I knew she would be an incredible asset for our schools. Over her 4 school years with us, Sierra has served all 9 of our buildings, even managing all 6 elementaries when we first hired her. She has a remarkable ability to connect with individuals, creating a safe and supportive environment for everyone around her. Her empathetic nature and strong interpersonal skills have made her a natural leader in our school community. But Sierra's commitment to service extends far beyond her role as a school social worker. In 2024 alone, so January to now, 9 months, she has devoted over 400 hours volunteering to local nonprofits, including Torchbearers, the Downtown Cuyahoga Falls Partnership, the Cuyahoga Falls Amateur Baseball Association, the City of Cuyahoga Falls Welcoming Workforce Coalition, the Akron Marathon, Akron Pride, the Andrea Rose Teodosio Foundation, the Akron Trans Day of Visibility, and Habitat for Humanity. I probably missed some, I don't know. But she doesn't just volunteer, she leads. Currently, in 2024, she's the vice president of Torchbearers, and in 2025, she will be the president. Very cool. One of her most significant achievements is founding and chairing the Illuminate Multicultural Festival this past summer in downtown Cuyahoga Falls. Sierra recognized a gap in representation in downtown events and took it upon herself to invite diverse vendors from various cultural backgrounds. This year's festival showcased Nigerian, Nepali, Caribbean, and Ethiopian cuisine, sorry, that word is hard for me, among others, all while fostering an environment of inclusivity. Participants experienced unique cultural traditions from salsa dancing to Ethiopian coffee ceremonies. And this was all thanks to Sierra's vision and dedication. On a personal note, I can say that Sierra is certainly one of the best clinicians and humans I've ever had the privilege to work with. She has a unique ability to focus on what needs to be done in the moment while still being able to keep sight of the bigger picture. I am constantly learning from her, and she has made me a better social worker. Please join me in congratulating Sierra Oden for her well-deserved recognition as a 2024 30 for the Future honoree.
It's up to the board. Would you like to be in there? You want to get one of that, and then we can all
One
join
of them,
as well?
and then we'll join, yeah.
It should just be the superintendent board president.
Sounds good to me.
Wow.
supposed to wear the top.
That's funny.
Thank you so much for recognizing me for this. This award is a huge honor for me to have been nominated for. By Holly was one of my nominators, but a few others as well. And so, to me, this award is just a reflection of the work that's been done. And so it's really just nice for that work to be recognized. And that's not why we do it, but it's always nice to be recognized whenever it does happen. So I'm really grateful to this district for connecting me to the community even more so than I have been. And really inspired by all the educators who always seem to do more with less in ways I never understand how they do it. And so I think I've really learned a lot from them as well. So thank you.
And then our third presentation is our report card overview. I'll invite up Mrs. Hausman.
Thank you, President Gomez, Vice President Coco, board members, Dr. Selico, Mrs. Oslin, colleagues and community for inviting me here tonight. Before I begin, I want to thank Julie Dudones, who cannot be here with us tonight, but certainly helped with preparing the presentation, and so I thank her publicly for her hard work. Let's see, here we go. This was a quote that we put in last year, and I just think it's still wonderful to keep it here. That we know report cards are just one part of the story. There's so much more that goes into it that isn't always captured in a report card. But I think our school district does a wonderful job of highlighting the many talents and skills, just like tonight. So I just thought that quote is always a great way to start. And then these are the current academic goals. We know that will be changing with the new strategic plan, but I just wanted to include those. Just a reminder about how the report card is put together. So some of those have changed in the last few years. So just a reminder there. And then the next slide is about how the report card is calculated. So you can see the weight of it. And
Can I ask a question for a
of
second?
course.
Just for clarification.
Mhm.
So the half star is added in 2023
Correct.
to demonstrate progress. So if we had like a 4 and we did just a little bit better, then it would be a 4.5. So it's not necessarily saying like a 4, to earn a 4.5 star is not an actual number. It's just moving towards the 5. Like, does it, you know what I mean? It's not like an actual
Part of a calculation.
part of a
I
calculation.
wonder if it's because of the weighting, and so they wanted to honor that. It's a really good question, but I can find out the answer for you. Like if it equates to an actual calculation, or it's just to say, like a value added, like you're on the right track. I see what you're asking. Yeah. I don't think
Not
it's.
as
No, it's okay. I do want to be precise in answering it, but I don't want to say the wrong thing. I think you're right on your hypothesis.
Okay.
How about that?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, it is. It's right here.
No.
It tells us. Right. It is based on the points earned. So,
Oh, it is okay.
yep. We should have just looked at the slide.
Oh, I didn't get to that page.
I didn't
Thank you, sorry.
either. I was talking to you and I didn't look. This is just a student snapshot of our enrollment that this report card reflects, graduation rate, our number of schools, and our absenteeism rate. This is information that we don't always put into a presentation, but I think it's kind of interesting because the way things are changing when it comes to the voucher system and how it impacts enrollment. So this gives you some information about who our resident students are that are enrolled, those who accept open enrollment to another district. It also talks about students in community schools. dropout prevention recovery programs. This is just good information to know as a board. And then non-public schools, so like the Ed Choice Expansion Program, you can see that number is 537, and so we'll look to see what it is this year. And they do have an asterisk there at the bottom that they are not able to collect information regarding district residents who are non-voucher students.
Hat kids, like accounting for them, like where they're like half enrolled here and then half enrolled there. Would you think that would be accounting for that? Because that's not open enrollment.
Right. I think it could be, right, it could be some, I can find out what the list is of those schools for you
Okay.
and what that means. I haven't dug into that. I was gonna tease Mrs. Stoikoy, and she's not here, so Miss Oslin, you tell her that I plan to tease her. Cause this is a treasurer's slide, but I wanted to put it up here because it has a wonderful story to tell. That when you look at our spending on classroom spending, that we are spending more on classroom instruction than the state average in a comparison group. So that means our dollars in Cuyahoga Falls are being dedicated more to classroom instruction than other types of dollars. And it's a wonderful message to share because out of comparable districts, we're ranking 17th out of 104. It's a great number. Something to be proud of. This is another number. We really have an experienced faculty and experienced administrators, so you can see that we have with less than 3 years is only 1.4% of our teaching experience and 8.3%. So we really have folks here who have been here a long time or a long time in their career, and so that's wonderful because we know that they have that sage advice and ability and skills in our district. And here's our overall ratings. So I'll show you, but we went up in 4 out of the 6 areas, and our overall rating went up a half a star to a 3. I went into absenteeism because never really sure where to place it. So it was 26.8, which it's gone down from 30 point maybe 3 or 5. So going in the right direction. And we know that we're excited that trend is starting to change for our district as well as other districts across the country. And here's some of the things that we're doing, focusing on chronic absenteeism. We have a wonderful Browns attendance initiative, Get in the Game. Is that what it's called, Ms. Merkel? Stay in the game. Okay. We have our panorama data that we're using at our care teams. We have our wonderful social worker support and counselors. We launched high school period attendance. We have parent square messaging. We have Rethink Ed curriculum. So I really am excited to see all that's being done this year, really coming together. And our attendance liaison, Rebecca is really building relationships across the district, even to the point that she came and talked to me about a student today. So it's nice how we're really, building threads across the district. Sorry. This is the ratings for our buildings. And I'll show you in another chart a little bit more what that looks like from the previous year to this year. Some highlights to me are our progress at Price and DeWitt. We have 4, a number 4 star there. Also Richardson. We also, our high school overall rating went up to a 3. So that was an improvement. Actually, the high school improved, I think, in 3 areas.
So that was great news this year. I'm sorry, I'm not good with this. Here is kind of just my analysis of where we were this year compared to last year. So you can see the district went up in overall progress, gap closing, graduation. You can also see the high school right below that. The yellow, I felt like they kind of stayed similar. You know, maybe there wasn't much of a change there. And then I showed a few areas of red that we did see a little bit more than a typical drop.
Is there a way to take our middle school data and like combine it to get like a picture of what that's gonna be?
Sure.
Cause we know that like next year, we're combining halfway through the year, we're gonna have one middle school.
That's right.
So, would that tell us like a story as we're going into one middle school of, because I haven't gone real deep, so I don't know if there are differences, but just as you look, you know, we have some 2s and 3s, and all the 2s and 3s are flip-flopped.
Yes.
So I just wonder, one of my wonderings is if there are differences in what's happening in one building as to the others in terms of what we're seeing here. And if that's something we can try to think about as we work towards coming together.
So for example, I met with the ELA and math teams at BOLIC last week, or over the last few weeks, meeting with them and doing PD and helping to kind of focus on their standards and things that they're working on. Miss Carlisle was in one yesterday with me. And then today I started Roberts and I met with their ELA team just for that reason, so I can kind of understand where the teachers are, what do they need, not just resources, I mean regarding their understanding, professional learning. So we're kind of doing it anecdotally as well as, right, looking at that data, what does it mean when it blends together. So, but I'm intentionally meeting with all testing subjects at least 4 times in both middle schools. So my calendar's a little crazy right now, but it will slow down. Here is for the report card overall, so you can see again where the district improved. And then also value added. Now this is just a snapshot. I'm going to take you through that a little bit deeper later in the presentation. But we also had some really nice improvements in value added, and so I'll show you another graph that will demonstrate that with more detail. And this was the area that you've heard about, that even if we are not quite meeting a benchmark with achievement, can we get all students to grow? And so this past year, we did have more growth. And so that tells us we're moving in the right direction.
Can we go back one?
Sure.
Sorry. I just wanted to highlight Lincoln, because I know they're not the highest star rating of the elementary schools, but I just think they deserve a shout out because of all the elementary schools, they were the only ones that overall increased their overall star rating this past year. So I think they deserve a little shout out for that achievement. So they're not the highest yet. They have work to do,
That's
and I know
okay. That's
they're
right.
committed to doing it, but they were the only one that actually increased their overall rating overall. So a little shout out to them for that accomplishment.
Here's our PI. This is the one I like to study and look at. So performance index begins to tell a story when you look at the color, and when you see the black, the advanced, the accomplished, and the proficient, when you see those bars starting to include more students and you see the limited and basic is shrinking, and you can see how that trend is happening. Now, it doesn't look like disruptive changes, but I'll be honest, slow and steady wins the race, because then we know that it's happening in the culture. It's not a disruptive change, because you can have a disruptive change positively, right? But then is that something you maintain, or was it a blip? But you can see that it's moving in the right direction again with our PI. So I hope to see a little bit more of an improvement next year, but we are moving in the right direction.
Is there any reason that we know of why that advanced plus at the same time is shrinking though?
Yes.
Because that's one trend that you can also notice, and that will, over time, if that continues, negatively impact those PIs, because you get those bonus points.
And thank you again for hiring a gifted coordinator. Because what that tells us is that our students who are gifted may not be taking advanced courses, may not be accelerated, may not be getting that plus. And so the more that we can know who our gifted students are and challenge them, you're going to see that grow as well. So we hope to see that grow because we're putting attention on that.
Thank you.
And increasing acceleration at the elementary level as well, which is a passion of mine, so. So this is the performance index by student group. So you can see, you know, how we were doing. Our students with disabilities didn't quite meet where we would, you know, want them to be, but it's very close. So we did notice, you know, a little bit more of a gap in our closing gaps with our students with disabilities this year. But I'll talk to you a little bit about how we're addressing that. And then you're going to see mathematics that is definitely a little bit more suppressed, and our Asian students as well. Okay. So that's the math achievement. Now we're just going into straight achievement by grade level. Now this one is 3rd grade. You'll see ELA. We had a little bit of dip, but you're going to see in the elementary school the math dipped every grade level. And I would propose, we chose to do a pilot. As you remember, when I came in last year, there was a pilot put together to try 2 or 3 programs. That is, I understand why we do it, but it also can be somewhat disruptive in achievement because you're asking a lot of different teachers to try different programs. And then we're also not sure, are those the right fit, those programs? So that could be why we see a dip in elementary math. But again, we adopted Envision. It's something we know, but it has new technology. There is new learning with it. We did adopt Success Maker, which also focused on automaticity and fluency for early mathematics. So we're hoping that is also going to stabilize elementary math. Okay. Fourth grade. 5th grade. Remember, 5th grade is the end of a benchmark in the fundamentals of mathematics. So 5th grade is one of the most rigorous math tests of the state tests. So it is one of the more challenging tests. But again, we'll see if that comes back up next year.
I also think with language arts, because when we first brought in I know we had to do a shift this year as well, but when we first brought in that original
Foundations and
new curriculum, that we hadn't had a new curriculum in so long, the one that we brought in before you were even here.
Oh, Fontes and Pinel.
Yeah, we saw really big gains, and you can kind of see that even before what you're showing on here. And then you start to see a little bit of like leveling off because we were kind of so far behind. And so you see that sharp
Yes.
turn and then a natural kind of leveling off. So.
And the worry with any new program is called the implementation dip. So there's a lot of new learning with Wit and Wisdom. It's a very rigorous program for our students and for our teachers. But they're persevering, they're working hard. I talked with a teacher today in our classroom about it. So we'll see how that goes. But again, I think raising the bar will hopefully just continue to show that growth.
And science really grew there. That's really good.
Yep.
We also, we invested in new science
Yeah,
curriculum too, with actual real stuff. to
Right.
use, and I think that you see that growth
Yeah,
in
that's
there.
good.
So those investments that we made in curriculum, you can see when they get implemented,
It affects them.
yeah, there's
Now you-
actually an impact.
You'll see eighth grade did have a dip, but then when we look at value added, you're gonna see that they were green across. So what's interesting is their students grew. They didn't meet the achievement level that we would hope to see, but they did grow.
You
So,
flew by seventh grade, and we had to give a shout out to seventh
yes,
grade math.
yes,
Well,
right,
sixth
here she
grade,
is,
too.
yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
grade.
Because that was on at our opening convocation, that was one of the things we talked about, that was one of our highlights as a district, was the big growth in seventh grade math.
Absolutely.
And
Also
Mrs.
in
Carlisle's here, so we
sixth.
might as well just point out seventh grade math, that was one of our big areas of huge growth, so.
Yeah.
But sixth grade also
Yeah,
went,
sixth grade
Yeah.
too,
yeah, it sure did.
in both subjects.
Yeah, that's really good. And then,
High school end of course, so we saw a little growth in Algebra 1. We talked a little bit about American government, but one of the things that we're discussing, it's a semester course, and typically it's a full year course. So we do wonder, is the course, pacing too quickly? And therefore, when they're testing, maybe, they're not, a teacher may not maybe even be able to cover everything in the course, so we are looking at making that a year-long course. But that can impact other things, so we have to kind of look at how that impacts staffing and those types of things. So there can be barriers to making decisions like that, so we'll kind of keep you in the loop as we go.
Has that historically been a one-semester course?
I
Or
don't
did
know
it
how long that's been here.
Did it used to be a full year course?
Used to be a full year.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's expected to be taught a full year, because I checked with the state last year, because our roster verification was a little squirrely for American government, and I couldn't get it to work right, and they basically said the state sets it up as a year-long course, so to roster it for half a year, we had to do like some modifications regarding that. So,
With Algebra 1, that seemed to have probably the greatest gain,
yes.
but then conversely,
yeah.
geometry seemed to have the biggest loss, so do we have
Yes.
any,
I'm meeting
analysis,
with
yeah,
the high
okay.
school teams as well, and that's kind of what I hope to discover, because when we're just having conversations, folks are able to share kind of what they're seeing, or what the students, what gaps might be when they're coming into geometry. So that's part of why I'm meeting with all the teacher teams, to kind of see if we can find the keys to unlock that puzzle. So I don't have a good answer for you now, but it is a good question.
because the geometry algebra, like, correlation is very interesting. It's probably one of the most interesting ones on here to look at, because it goes opposite, they connect, and then they go opposite again. So
We're
that's,
also looking at our acceleration pathways, and also we're reviewing the compacted curriculum at the middle school versus a different type of acceleration program. So I do think it's gonna be really interesting when they're all together. We can have more 8th graders in Algebra 1. So I'm not sure why geometry is dipping like that. But I look, and also sometimes if you have a change in staff, or we have staff mobility, right, that they're changing, we haven't had a steadiness in the math department, like with Algebra 1 and some of the other courses. That's what I've heard. I don't have that historical knowledge, but that would also be something to look at, to try and see if we can keep teachers in the courses they teach, so that they can build, every year.
And geometry always seemed to me so much fun.
Yeah.
More so than Algebra 1 or 2. I was okay in math, but not great. But geometry was more like, real world things you could apply. And
Yes.
yeah, it's funny, it dropped a little bit there.
Yeah. So this is just, again, we're really focusing on that tier one, how to strengthen it. I know I'll be working with Ms. Sabatiki regarding the equity audit. Will be beginning this year. Our BLTs and the district leadership team really using that as an opportunity to strengthen tier one instruction. Our elementary MTSS data days, we just had those. All teachers come to that and the administrators. We look at the literacy data, and we also have PBIS is going to be having those days as well to look at tier one to support the social emotional child. And then we have the early warning system that we just got, which is really going to help us with our secondary MTSS. So we can look at children holistically, but then we can kind of dive in a little bit deeper to see what strands they're struggling in. So, and then of course we have Dr. Wilfong came in. She met with all the high school core content teams on the 18th, science and math, ELA, social studies, very positive responses. At our math meeting yesterday, we had the math teachers talk about their word walls. So they're really trying a lot of really rich ideas that she's sharing. And this year, we're really diving into the success criteria. So we really worked on just breaking down the standards last year. This year now, we're breaking it down to like a daily lesson and then teaching the students about those learning intentions and about what they should be able to do after their learning. So we did some training on that in August, and we'll continue to focus on that through this year. Here's our gifted performance index. So we kind of stayed steady with gifted from last year, not too much change. We know that this is our area of growth, so Ms. Belko has been meeting with a lot of teacher teams, and again, when I met with teachers this past week, they were all singing her praises behind her back, sharing resources, helping them work on different strategies, and so she's doing a lot to support our teacher teams so far. And writing new WEPs, teachers being part of the goal setting this year, they're learning a lot. And because I know that this was an investment, I put a little bit more in here about gifted because I wanted to, I know where the presentation is until later, but I thought I'd give you a little teaser, what she's working on. And so we're dovetailing gifted PD into different places so we can get more of our teachers meeting that 15 hours of criteria, so that way we can make sure we're counting more services for students. She's creating a Google Classroom hub for the teachers. Again, a teacher yesterday shared one of the puzzles, and they're going to be putting it into academy time with the middle school students. And then here's some of the programs that she's launching for that directly serves students. Okay. Graduation.
Oh, Power of the Pen, that's a great program.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to do that when I
Did
was
you?
in middle school, yeah. And it's really exciting to see the kids doing that again. I'm glad.
Ms. Balco put it out in Parent Square and put it out to
Good.
everybody. I haven't heard what the numbers are signed up
Okay,
yet, but I'll
yeah.
let you know.
Yeah, I love that
Yes.
program.
Yep.
Back way long. Anyway.
So here is the graduation rate. So again, you see that it went up.
Yeah.
There we go. So good news there. I wanted to show you, oh geez Louise. Okay. You can see that there are actually 100% of some subgroups here for graduation. American Indian and Hispanic, military students. You can also see though that our males are graduating less than our female students. We know that's a national trend, but one that maybe we want to consider how to intervene. And we also see our English learners are graduating at a much lower number. So that would be an area that Mrs. Sibaticki could work with Mr. Elder and Mrs. Merkel about. And again, here are some action steps. The early warning system, we had an attendance dashboard and then we had an academic dashboard. The early warning system blends those two together and includes grades in it and maybe credits. So you can invite me back for another presentation about the early warning system. But we're really excited, and they're still building it. So when we're working with Ms. Geschke, so thank you again for supporting her services with us. Our admin team meets with her once a month, and she's teaching us how to use the data in the dashboard, and she's still building it. We're giving her feedback. So it's really been a wonderful collaboration.
I think if they get the credits on there too, so kids know how many credits they have left. That's
Right.
really an important piece, so thank her for that.
Yeah, making them aware of where they are.
Yep.
I agree, empowering them.
And that was gonna be one of my questions, because I wanted to know, how do we measure their matriculation? Like, as a freshman becomes a sophomore, are they really just a sophomore because they've been here for 2 years? Or are they a sophomore because they have enough credits to graduate, and then they're a junior, and then they're a senior? Because I think sometimes we give people that title because of the amount of years they've been in a building,
It is
but
based
the
on the credits.
matriculation should be based on the amount of credits they have and their ability to graduate in 4 years.
I thought
So-
it was. I thought you had to have a certain amount of credit to become a sophomore or junior. I thought. Now, I
That
could
is
be
true.
wrong.
Mr. Elder's looking over. Is that accurate?
5.25 credits to move, so from
To move.
freshman to sophomore, 5.25,
Okay.
which is the minimum that we
Mhm.
will have on our schedule, right? So maximum really kind of depends on how many have semester courses that you're taking, but generally speaking, we're talking 5.25 credits.
And
We'll matriculate you through.
Is that information available to them where they view their schedule?
Right, that's the question
That's
too,
the
like, do
question.
they know,
Oh,
what their
'cause we
actual
can know
standing
that,
is
but
versus?
do they know that? How are we?
Right,
And are the credits the appropriate credits to meet graduation
Yeah.
requirements?
And I think that's why that early warning system will come into play if we do that. That will really help the students see, where they are and what they need
Okay.
through, hopefully.
it should be in school links, right, but,
Also, if you remember, there's a alarm rule about graduation planning. So in school links, you're correct, the school counselor will go through the graduation planning with the student. Technically, that can start in middle school, but by high school, we're doing that, and that should essentially help that student stay on track, whatever their potential career track, career planning and all that should be going through school links. So they can do assessments for a variety of different things that they're interested in outside or post-secondary, selects or requests, credit, transcripts and things like that. But the main part of that should be, the planning for graduation and ensuring that student is on track. And so, that is part of that plan that Ohio Department of Education and Workforce put in place, a couple of years back.
so maybe we can find out the intentionality of how they're using that and, what that looks like, cause, I'm not sure how often they're in school links, but I do know we're using it, so.
So the school links is used similar to classroom guidance, if you will. So school counselors will set time, to review that the entire class or small groups of classes. But when they meet individually with students, they use that platform to do that. And then they can actually send messages and things like that
And then on graduation, so we got 3 stars for graduation, which is progress, because our graduation rate at one point was much lower than this. So we're making good growth on graduation. What percentage do we need to get get 4 stars at graduation?
95%.
95? Okay. So we're chomping at 4 stars at graduation. We can get there. We can get there. We're very close. That's a good goal.
We also are doing a high school data integrity team. So Ms. Shaw and myself, Mr. Jones, Mr. Smith, counselor, that we're coming together and looking at our data to make sure that what we're reporting is accurate. Because sometimes we have the right data, but it may not be reported accurately. Ms. Shaw is the person who puts that data in and it goes to the state, but how we bring her that data, is really a team approach. And so we're trying to build new data teams around different topics with data. So here's the measures that go into the college career workforce readiness. So we did discover something through our data team is you have to survey the students after they leave. And the state tells us the questions that we have to ask. And so one of the things that is a barrier is communication, getting to the students. And that impacts this component. So we're going to take a more intentional, we're going to try some new strategies this year to try to get that information from our students so that we can better report accurately what they're doing after graduation. So we do think some of this is suppressed because we need to focus on the communication piece as well.
How long after graduation?
Oh, I think we have like a couple months after graduation, then we can send it out. Maybe.
How long, after walking across the stage, reach graduation, or after they've met the requirements?
I'm not sure the actual days. Ms. Shaw knows that, but
Okay.
yeah.
They could pick that up right when they grab their diploma.
Right? Yes. Fill out the
Something for you,
survey
something
while
for
you're
me.
sitting in your robe, and then you can get your diploma.
And their commencement speech, please fill this out before you leave.
Right.
You put a QR code on the screen at Blossom, they'll scan it.
Sure they will.
Yeah, true.
That's a great idea.
Actually, some districts are not doing that, but are certainly asking them to declare before they leave.
Yeah.
We're looking into that to see what
Yeah.
the rules are around that.
Yeah, we were just at a meeting, they were just
Right.
discussing.
Oh, you want your diploma? Here you go.
So we think we can get more accurate data on that measure. Early literacy, we're kind of where we have been, but I do have some good news on this one that I'm excited about. So we see that our students are coming in a little bit stronger now on their diagnostic assessment. So for example, in one of the schools, starting 4th grade, 70% of the kids were at benchmark. So we're starting to see them begin the year stronger than what we've seen in the last few years. So that's going to help. And remember, the early literacy score is based on a 3-year trend. So even if we're growing, it's still going to, if you're moving out of something, you're going to have that impact for 3 years. So it's not a 1-year review. And then this is where we've seen some growth with moving on track. 2nd grade seems to be an outlier. So when we are in data days, we're actually talking about that Tier 1 instruction, and when we see several children on a reading improvement plan in one grade level, then we're going to the previous grade level to talk to those teachers and to understand better how to support core instruction so that we can strengthen as they move into the next grade level and that they retain that. So part of that is Foundations was still new for some of our 3rd grade teachers. So this is their 2nd full year of doing Foundations, whereas K2 is doing it sooner. The fidelity of Heggerty, because you can't skip any of the skills in those programs. If you do skip or you don't strengthen it, that can be a problem. And with foundations, you have to have 80% of your students meet the skill and the unit assessment before you move on. And so if you're not securing that, that can be a problem as well. So they're learning all of these things during our data meetings. So it's not just looking at data, it's really a professional learning opportunity where we all come together and talk about these topics. So, and Ms. Seaman is not here today, but she was instrumental in designing a spreadsheet and a way to monitor students. So it's pretty exciting what we're doing this year. So you'll have to invite her to do a presentation. So I think I talked about most of these. High dosage tutoring, we're going to be starting probably after winter break, around winter break. And parents will be receiving information about the dyslexia screener and RIMS tomorrow at conferences and Friday.
And important to know with the high dosage tutoring, just as a reminder, it's unfunded mandate,
Correct.
and so that we are not getting any money for it, and yet it is quite costly to do
Yes.
with what they are really asking.
And we can't serve all the children
Right.
that they expect us to. Like, we don't
Exactly.
have enough teachers to do it. So we're focusing on 3rd and 4th graders. Yeah. And that's what we did last year as well. Okay, so value added, here we go. It's the standing in line model. So we want a student to at least be in the same place in line the next year to meet 1 year's growth. If they jump ahead in the line, they had more than 1 year's growth. If they fall back in the line, they have less than 1 year's growth. So our goal is at least maintain our place in line. Okay? .1 or more is a positive threshold. .1, -1, .1 or less is a negative. So you can see, again, value add is a 3-year trend that's reported on the report card. So our 2-year index was a -10.92. Our current year is a -7.72. So we went up to 2 stars from 1 because we grew in the current year, and it's making that 3-year trend more positive. I will show you. So if you look here, this is this year. This is the 2-year trend, and this is the 3-year trend. So when you look at the 1 year and you compare it to the 2-year, you can see this was positive, this was positive, this was positive in growth. This was positive, this was positive, this was positive in growth. This was positive, even though it's negative, you can see, right? Positive, positive again. And then science, kind of about the same. So that's why we went from a 1 to 2 stars. So typically what you'll see before achievement starts to change is this value added starts to change. When kids start to grow, then as they grow each year, we will then start to meet those achievement thresholds, if we can stay on this path. Here's just another way of looking at it. So the red is a more suppressed growth. Green is positive. Yellow is showing some growth. Gray means that there isn't a growth measure. Blue is also students made more progress than expected, significant evidence. So more green this year than last. Then we talk about gap closing. So you can see our Black non-Hispanic students through in ELA. And then you can also see there are students with disabilities. We have a negative 0.9, so it's an area for us to focus. And then math. So math is telling us that we definitely have an area to improve, right? We did learn something, though, and I'm looking at Miss Carlisle again. At the middle school and the high school, there is a calculator that the state of Ohio allows students to use, because in the upper grades, they are not tested for fluency. They're tested for access to higher level concepts. In the lower grades, they're tested for automaticity and fluency. You won't see a calculator used with the little ones. But what we learned is that we haven't had PD about how to use that calculator. So it is a wonderful tool that our students can use and our teachers can use, and so they're going to have training in October on that. So we'll see if that makes an impact, because the state allows it because they feel it's fine to use it as a tool for all students. And so it might be something that we haven't maybe been doing with Fidelity, and that we can focus on how that can show their ability to problem solve and not have a fact fluency piece be a barrier to problem solving. So we'll see what that tells us. This was from last year because, you know, every child has a data story. There's so much data we have on children today. For many teachers, it's overwhelming to think about it, and so our role is to try to help them figure out how to use it and to bring meaning to the data that we have. And so, again, meeting with teacher teams is really how we get to have those conversations, and so we've been doing that. Our TBTs and our BLT. And so here's the different data points that we have. So one of the new things that we're adding this year is a common assessment, or the readiness assessments, because they're aligned with the standards. Before, we were using MAP testing, and MAP testing did have some alignment to standards, but not necessarily as specifically to Ohio standards. Readiness assessments also gives children the opportunity to experience what that looks like. It's a shorter version, and it gives the teachers the data right away. It grades it and can help drive their instruction about that cohort of students. What standards do they know, do well? What standards do they need to strengthen? So it's almost like a formative assessment for our students. And we're doing that grades 3 and up. We also changed our gifted identification from MAP to Iowa and COGAT because it's a more reliable test. It's from the 1920s. MAP was from 2000. So there seems to be over-identification sometimes with MAP testing. So we're going to kind of go back to the oldies but goodies and see what that tells us. And then we have all these other, there's more data out there than this, but those are the hot ones. And that is the end of a very long report card presentation. So I heard some questions that I will focus on and get answers to you, so thank you for your questions. Is there other questions I can help with right now?
Questions or comments on the board?
Having just thank you for putting all this together for us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I just wanted to make one comment. So when they designed this new report card system, they designed a bell curve system intentionally. So if you look at how the star ratings for districts report out, it's a perfect bell curve. And so with 3 stars, we're right there in the middle.
We are.
But we're at the top of the bottom.
Yes.
And if we get to 3.5, which is my goal for next year, we are the bottom of the top. and that's a much better place to be. So we're making positive progress, but we're right there.
Yeah.
We're right there.
And we're
then we'll
meeting
be
this
in,
year.
and then next year we can be in that top half of the state. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that would be an exciting place.
I did a survey with some teachers. You'll see it in your Friday notes. The comments that they're saying, I think they're going to sound a little bit different than things maybe we've been talking about it. So it's pretty exciting. I also include some, I call them growthful comments. Can't say negative comments. I'm a second grade teacher, but you know, areas of growth. So I'm including that because not every survey is going to say positive things about anything we do. But I think
Opportunities for growth.
absolutely. So I think it's exciting to see, and I had shared a little bit about a teacher using teacher clarity in her lesson plan and things like that. So we're starting to see some pretty exciting things. So I'm hopeful, definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Hausman.
It's a lot of information.
Yeah.
Takes us to item E, Treasurer CFO's business, consent agenda. Ms. Oslin.
Thank you. I would like to recommend that the Board of Education approve all the items listed in the Treasurer's CFO's business consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? We have the minutes and donations, long list of donations from lots of wonderful people supporting our district. Please call the roll.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer.
Aye.
Ms. White.
Aye.
Ms. Coco.
Aye.
Mr. Gomez.
Aye. Thank you. Brings us to item F, Treasurer CFO's business. Ms. Oslin.
I would like to recommend that the Board of Education approve the August 2024 investment schedule and monthly spending report.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion?
Everything's status quo. It really's been a quiet month.
If we could look at athletics real quick. Ms. Stoikoi did mention at agenda review, athletics isn't actually in the negative in cash overall. She wanted to make that point, for two reasons. One, we have, gate sales coming in, from football games in particular. And two, if you recall last year, they did the, new process for, all the fundraiser accounts in athletics, and there's been some misplaced funds, not inappropriately misplaced, but just some issues with that process. So they're getting those resorted out, and so that's why it's reflecting that negative, just to get clarity on that. 'Cause we can't have funds in the negative, so we wouldn't want to approve that without clarification. Okay, please call the roll.
Mrs. Schaefer.
Aye.
Ms. White.
Aye.
Ms. Coco.
Aye.
Mr. Gomez.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Any comments?
No, it's nice to be here.
Thank you. Nice to have you. Item G, Superintendent CEO's business consent agenda. Dr. Selico.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. It is recommended that the Board of Education approves all items listed in the superintendent's consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, Dr. Selico?
Yes, thank you. Many of the items that, once again, under personnel are routine. We have some supplementals, leaves of absences, a new hire for a paraprofessional, as well as a new teacher who we hired at the beginning of the year, but was coming back from having a baby, and therefore she will be starting on 10/14. And that's Jessica, and I'm not sure how to say her name, Seidel. And so we're looking forward to meeting her. We also have a service agreement for food services. This is a standard contract for cleaning supplies as well as some training that is provided for staff. Looks like we will have a little savings from last year, a couple $100s, and that is taken from the food services account. We also have a memorandum of understanding of agreement for the junior achievement for North Central Ohio. As you know, we've been a member of that for many years, and again, that's for high school students. This year we're focusing solely on high school. It could also be qualified for middle school students, but this is regarding finance and career readiness for teachers that want to participate and students that want to take part in that. We have a service agreement. You've seen these before for Learn Well. That is when we have a student placed either generally hospitalized or under physician's care, and when they're unable to come to school, that we are required to provide education. This is the Learn Well is the organization that provides that education. And then we have a contracts for services for, is it Ornet? And I'm going to turn over to Mr. Hutch, who will explain that.
So we purchased our server virtualization software, the software that runs all of our server infrastructure from Ornet as part of state consortium pricing. VMware, the company, the product we use, was bought by another company, and one of their first orders of business seems to have been unilaterally raise prices on K-12 education by about 520%. So admittedly, we were getting a great deal before. We were only paying about $750 a year for that service. We'll now be paying somewhere in the average of $5,000 a year for that service. That is the best pricing we can get. That is the state management council's negotiated pricing, and that is simply the best we can get. We looked at just abandoning the platform and going another direction, but the capital cost of doing that migration would be greater than the cost of increased licensing fees. So this is the best way to go for this.
State term pricing's the lowest price anybody's gonna get. No private business is gonna get that pricing, so it is what it is, but it's the best deal we're gonna get.
It's the best of a bad deal.
Yeah, yeah. Any questions or comments from the board?
I was just going to mention the Project School Nutrition. That sounds really
That's not
interesting.
on, they
Oh.
pulled that one from,
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Sorry.
thought that was
No.
on here
That
still.
was on the
No.
old agenda.
Well,
It's on the
Oh,
new
I'm so
agenda.
sorry. Okay, never mind. Talk about it when it's on. Sorry about that.
no problem. Please call the roll.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
And then item H, Superintendent CO's business. Your comments, Dr. Salvo.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Gomez. I have a couple follow-up comments. I was reserving them for the report card. Just want to point out a couple things. I know we did point out a number of highlights. I too am an advocate and fan of the slow incremental growth. I think that is a good way to go, and sometimes you have these spurts of growth which are great, but then you tend to set yourself up for failure the following year. So it's nice to just to show growth and improvement. We have had great success. I had the opportunity to sit through Dr. Wilfong's presentation, and I would say I describe her as a non-traditional college professor. Her techniques are, and for whatever stereotype that entails, but she really is very, very engaging, and she was I thought very interesting, and you could tell. I think I shouldn't say could tell, but I thought she had experience as a teacher. I don't know if anyone else in here saw her as an elementary teacher, or I don't know, maybe K-12. I'm not sure, but she does present that way as if she's had that experience. So I could see why her teachers are really positively responding to her. She had some really great stuff. We also will honor some of our principals with our Top Tiger Night, just to showcase some of the good growth that we've exhibited there. And I want to point out, as Mr. Gomez was starting, or did say, I'm sorry, for the graduation rate at 92.8%, we have had some really good growth in that area in the last couple of years. I do anticipate a potential little dip next year, but we have been figuring out some things that I think in the long term are really going to help. But we may see a little decline from that 92%, but again, it's hard to say because once they scrub the data at the state, sometimes we get different answers than we anticipate, but we will keep on them for their data. And then our absenteeism going down from 20 to 26.8%. And I think when I arrived it was around 30. So I mean, we'll take it. It's growth. You've had some success stories that you've seen. We haven't seen a student in 5 years, and yet we've got that student to come to school based on some home visits, and sometimes some courts have to intervene or whatever. But we're going to do what it takes to get our students here, whatever that means. So happy we've had some successes there. Also want to just talk about we had homecoming, as you're aware of. So was uneventful. When I say uneventful, that means no problems. My phone didn't ring that evening, so that's always good. We have some great progress on the new building. I shared with you some photos from the drone that they came in last weekend. So really excited about the progress. They're excited to get back in there and see what they've done. It just changes so quickly. We also will be releasing our Roar, and also Tiger Tails went out today, our internal communication, and had a gentleman just stop me last night and introduced himself. He was a neighbor at the school and so kind, and was so appreciative that he introduced himself. But he was saying how much he enjoyed the Roar, and he thought it was very informative, and he thought he loved the layout and how it's, you know, all of that. So Christine happened to be standing there. I said, well, you know, I help in that, but I don't play the largest part, and so I told him he could compliment her. But he was really appreciative, and he doesn't have any students or anything in the district, but enjoys reading. So I thought that was some good feedback. We also, I was really on a roll yesterday. I don't know, I did not plan my week well, but I was in schools yesterday, and I spent a good probably hour and a half walking around the high school yesterday. And I say that because I did not plan the right shoes. So the minute on the board, know what I'm talking about. Had high heels on, and my back, and after last night, I was really paying the price when I got home. But what I wanted to say was that I was giddy. And I was giddy because, and I told teachers in the hallways when I stopped to talk to them, I walked, as I said, an hour and a half, I probably saw 2 cell phones out. One was in the hallway, and as soon as I asked the young lady to put it away, she did.
Okay.
And then the second was in a classroom, and we'll every time we see it, we do polite reminders to our staff to adhere to these policies. But I mean, children, they thought I was crazy, probably the students, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I am so excited. It was like a tiger time, so it wasn't like I was disrupting math class. But I'm like, they're like, what? I'm like, oh my gosh, I love that you are playing Uno right now. I saw Uno in numerous classrooms because it was tiger time, so it's kind of a downtime for some kids. Students on their computers doing schoolwork during like study halls and tiger time and talking to one another. And some just had their heads down, which I'm like, all right, that's fine. I mean, you're not on the screen or, you know, engaging and things. I mean, I was so happy. So I actually texted Mrs. Carlisle. I said, sometimes I text you with bad news. I'm going to give you some good news. I'm very happy leaving the high school. So I know it's not easy. And the teachers that I have been talking to, like I'm getting a lot of thumbs ups and applauds as I walk by. And, you know, just there, and on behalf of the board too, they definitely are so appreciative that we did this. So really good news. And then lastly, and I know some of you will probably talk about it, but kudos to everyone who participated. And thank you all of you for attending last night at our Family Center event, ribbon cutting. I couldn't ask for a nicer evening other than if we had some sun, but it didn't rain, so I'm very excited. And when I said that I've never seen a crowd for something like that event, I've been involved in a lot of things, and was just so pleased to have almost 70 people there. So it was really, really cool, and just very touching and humbling. So thank you to my team, who's done a great job. Christine was a great part of that. Holly, as you know, all the people I thank. So appreciative to our donors and partners. This community is amazing. I told Ms. Coco too last night. I'm just, and again, I've been in various communities, and this one just has a special place in my heart. They're just so warm and like caring about one another, and it's genuine, and I just love it. The end.
And to go off that, the 3 things that are most in need at our Black Tiger Family Center right now are pasta sauce, and peanut butter. So I'm always happy to throw out the needs at a board meeting. So those are 3 things that we are in need of. We're trying to work on our food items right now. People have been wonderful with a lot of the other items we're really stocked up on, but they're working on food, pasta sauce, peanut butter would be wonderful to stock up on.
Yes. Trying to build up our food now. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Item I is board business. Number 1 is approval of parent support groups. It's recommended the Board of Education approves the following parent support groups for the 2024-2025 school year: Cuyahoga Falls High School PTSO, Bullock PTO, Roberts PTO, and Cuyahoga Falls Alumni Soccer Association.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Oh, they got to vote first.
Gotta vote.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye. I'm just teasing Susan.
There you go.
Now you're.
We'll clap for Susan, she can. Number 2 is a memorandum of understanding with the Cuyahoga Falls Education Association. It's recommended the Board of Education approves the memorandum of understanding between the Cuyahoga Falls Education Association and the Cuyahoga Falls City School District.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Gomez.
Aye.
Mr. Harris.
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer.
Aye.
Ms. White.
Aye.
Ms. Coco.
Aye.
Thank you. Number 3 is discussion on naming rights, and I'm gonna turn this over to Dr. Zelika.
Thank you. Yeah, I should be pretty brief on this. Just want to get you up to speed. We've been working behind the scenes a little bit on, lots of discussions for quite some time about naming rights, as we know that's coming up. Of most importance, frankly, is the policy that you will review. I think we will review in our policy review and recommend to the board, because it's really relevant. When they proposed it to us, I said, oh yes, we got to pay attention to this one. So that's where we'll begin, but there's nothing in it that that's going to sway us one way or another in the plan that I'm proposing that we take. So I drafted, I put together, just kind of, again, did some research and got some ideas from other places, and this notion of like a booklet or I intend to have, I'm thinking of having like a cover letter, and then following that, we talked about having some like different levels of donors, like platinum, gold, silver, and bronze, and then your platinum level being sort of your big things, right? Your stadium, for example, the auditorium, football field, the gymnasium. Like, there are a number of big ticket items that many of us would not be able to contribute to, but big business or whatever that may be. And then down to like the bronze level, where people could perhaps put in, and again, these are just ideas, but names on like little nameplates on something, whether it's a seat in the auditorium or in the stadium or a weight rack, things like that we could maybe look at for people who would be a more reasonable donation for the vast majority of us. But we thought we would we're going to meet next week, and one of the things, if anyone is interested as a board member to serve on the committee, we'll be happy to have you. It's myself, Mr. Johnson, Ms. Stewart, Ms. Sabatiki loves this work, I learned, so I threw her on that committee. She's excited. I'm glad you are, because this is not my cup of tea of work, but it's certainly part of my job, so I will do it the best I can. But we plan on having more of a planning meeting, but I thought the timing, I think I know the direction we're going to go in, that we would like to propose anyway, and then kind of we'll talk it through as a committee. But some of the ideas we had that came out were, one is we would send invitations. What my one concern is that if we were to go ahead and just do, face-to-face kind of, hey, would you be interested? And then we get a donor, and then another organization or business finds out, and they're like, well, hey, I never was given the opportunity. So I was trying to find ways to avoid that happening. So I know Diana Colavecchio, through our Business Alliance, has shared with us at one point, like, she has an email distribution list to all the businesses, for example. And if she would be kind enough to me, I don't know if she can share that or not, but maybe that's one avenue that we can get that message out, to invite people to have like something here in the library, for example, and where we would do a presentation to businesses and to show them pictures of what the stadium will look like, what the auditorium will look like, what those possible donation levels could be. We'll have hors d'oeuvres, and just kind of a formal and then informal presentation and question and answer type setting. And these are some of the things we're thinking about. And then we can also, of course, advertise on social media, do a press release, so we're getting the message out, in various ways. Now, we still could miss people, we know that, but at least we've extended, as many different ways that we could to communicate to folks. And those are just some of the thoughts that we've had early on. Again, haven't met with the whole team. That was Mr. Johnson and I, frankly, just kind of brainstorming. But we kind of like that approach because it's, inclusive and then informative with the meeting. So those are just some ideas. Certainly open to others, but this, at the end of the day, the board would enter into agreements, and Christy did go ahead and get us a draft. She just shared it with me. I glanced over it this morning, had a little bit of time, but it's essentially an agreement that says the amount, specifies the amount, what you would be sponsoring, the length of the term, blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of in motion as well. And she's gotten the legal opinion that as long as we don't exceed, it's a certain portion. I want to say it was like $8 or $9 million in donations or the
think it was
related to
8
the
million.
bonds, 8 million, we would be okay. So
Total
mhm.
of everything would be
Yeah.
8 or 9 million.
So, those were kind of my ideas, thoughts. Happy to field questions or other suggestions.
Is there a board member that wants to serve on the committee?
I can tell you what we set up, and then we can also move the
Mrs.
dates.
Schaefer?
I'd love to.
Mrs. Schaefer will serve on the committee.
Did she volunteer or was she told?
I
Just kidding.
actually think she would like to serve on the
It
committee.
sounds like a super good plan.
Voluntold? Yeah.
What?
He knows what I like to do. He knows the.
We all know each other's strengths and
Yeah.
passion, so I kind of felt like this was up Mrs. Schaefer's alley of
As
things
of
that
right
she.
now,
PTA days.
yeah, and we can change it if you need to, but October 4th at 1 o'clock. And it's after a gender review. I don't know if you have a gender review that day. But that is when it's scheduled for now.
I actually have a gender review that day.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
All right,
This-
I'll
this-
send you the
This
invitation.
sounded like something very up Mrs. Schaefer's alley, so.
It does.
And very
I
much
think
not
that was
so
meant
up
to be.
many of our
Right.
other board members' alleys.
What are we calling that committee?
I just called it naming rights. I'm actually gonna send you an invitation right now.
Thank you, Mrs. Schaefer.
I'm very excited.
Like I said, I'm glad others are. This is, it's important work, so I need people who are passionate about it as well, so thank you. But that's it. That's all I was going to share.
Any
if
other
that's okay.
questions from the board on this topic? Number 4 is a discussion on library board appointee. So, we did our one library board appointee and park board appointee last year. Our other library board appointee's term is up this year, at the end of this year. And the person that currently holds that position is Robin Worthington. She is interested in reappointment, and I've explained that to her, that I'll make sure to inform her of the process, but our policy requires us to permit anyone to apply, even if the person holding the seat is interested in reappointment. So, we just need to get, that information out on reappointment and either set, do we want to do interviews?
I think how we did them last time was.
We wanna do it at the first meeting in November? And then set a deadline for applications for first meeting in November is November 13th. Then do we wanna give people the month of October to apply? So their application would be due 10/31, and then I can work with Mr. Jones to get that.
Our first meeting is November 13th.
Yes. 2nd and 4th, so the second meeting is,
Oh, I have it on the 6th.
Is it, I
Oh,
think
is it
they're
the
adjusted
6th?
because of Thanksgiving.
Because of Thanksgiving.
Very different.
oh,
in
then we
November.
would interview on the 6th.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I've been wrong before, so let's double check it.
Okay, so we'll do that, and I'll work with Mr. Jones. We can put it on the website, we can put it on Facebook, and then we can, post it at the library as well. Okay, does that work for everyone?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. Number 5 is future agenda items. Anyone have any future agenda items at this time? Takes us to number 6, committee reports. 612 construction core team, Ms. White.
Yeah, we met on Thursday, the September 12th, and it's pretty much, I mean, the outside is almost complete. All the stone, the masonry and all those things. They're starting the masonry on the locker room areas now. The mezzanine and auditorium will begin this month, but also later this fall. They'll begin to pour the concrete and all that. And then the steel, it's so exciting stuff, but, you know, it's what it takes. The crane will be removed this month, so say goodbye to the big crane out there. And the drywall, and the first building is pretty much complete. Paint is going on. Building 1 and 2, the floor casework's ongoing, and so on. The second floor is getting painted, the gymnasium paint's going, the ceiling grid is ongoing on the second and third floor, interior metal framing on the first and second floor. The flooring's coming, it's ongoing in classrooms and restrooms, and concrete ceiling. Sealing like S-E-A-L, not like the ceiling, but that is going on. The corridors and hallways will be last in those areas. The glazing will be done at the end of November, that's for the windows. Let's see, the roofing, that will be complete in a couple of months on building 4. Then you go through the plumbing, kind of same HVAC, electrical and technology. They're still working on that, a few more days for the power for the mechanics. And then the Portage Trail widening, the turning lane is completed, and the final punch list closeout will be at the end of the month, so soon. And then the stadium will be later this fall, and, you know, we start next fall, maybe, we'll see, we have to work out all that. And then, the early site, Dominion Gas, they're awaiting the gas house installation. That's not done yet, but they're waiting for that to happen. We'll talk more about the new stadium. We don't know all the ins and outs of how to do that next year yet. I think that's correct, Dr. Selico.
Yeah, we had a meeting the other day.
Yeah, so we have to kind of work to see if we even can. Although I will tell you, I keep bugging them, please, August, and they give me these looks like, and I'm thinking, well, it's only 2 months, you know, come on, move it up. Because it's so nice from the outside when you go, which I'm sure all of you have been, it's almost complete on the outside, so they're just working really hard in the classrooms. But it seems like they're really going fast, and I'm hopeful, maybe, we'll see. And so, any rate, the community tours, we have 10:19 for the public from 9 to 12. And then for our planning committee would be 10:18 at 4:30. And of course, no open-toed shoes or flip-flops, anything like that. And unfortunately, we can't have walkers or wheelchairs. So I know some of the older folks won't be able to go, but I promised some of them that we would get them in there when the building, before it was actually open for the kids, that we'll have them back when the elevator's up and running. So, and I'm sure we can do that. The furniture is ongoing, we're getting some of that done. And there's just more, mainly technical stuff, but the planetarium astronomy room's coming along. The greenhouse project, we've gotten donations for that. And so I think it's just the special ed touchscreen displays, they're really cool because they move down. So the kids can kind of touch and learn from that. So it's really neat how they're doing that. I think that's pretty, without reading the whole thing and going into every little thing, I think that's pretty much, but it is coming. It really is going faster than you would think. So I have to hand it to Hammond. And then I won't talk about the windows, I'll leave for another time, because that's a little bit of a ongoing conversation where the interior of the media or cafeteria, where those big huge windows, there's a little bit of things going on with that, but as I find out more, I will let everyone know on that. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Ms. White. Board policy is meeting next week. District Wellness Committee, Mrs. Schaefer.
We met on the 11th. So that was our first meeting of the year, so we went over roles and responsibilities and kind of like divvied out some assignments that were going to happen before our next meeting. We meet again on the 28th of next month. We went over the policy, the wellness policy, again. And then we also reviewed the well set, which was kind of like this overall, do we meet these requirements that have been set forth? And we were rated like a 1, 2, or a 3. And then if anything was lower than a 2, we needed to address it. So anything that was like a 2 or lower for federal requirements, we kind of addressed. There were things that we needed to look at. So then we kind of divvied up to those people that were gonna look at those things. And, I have a couple, Bill has a couple, that we're going to look at. And then we are going to start to look at how the policies are implemented. So like the policies say this, but are they being implemented? How are they being implemented? So that's like a whole nother process, like a whole nother survey to do. So we're starting that as well. So that's interviewing principals and administration. So we will probably discuss that next time. We're looking at how other districts post their wellness updates, and looking at starting a wellness hub on the website so that people can receive their information kind of in a one stop. So when we have more specific things, I will report back.
Thank you. Anything from legislative, Mr. Harris?
No.
Anything from student achievement, Ms. White?
No, we meet next month on this, I believe the 2nd.
Okay, thank you.
I'll double check on that date, but I think it is that date.
That is.
Brings us to item 7, comments. Ms. Coco, you're first.
Yes, I don't have a lot tonight. I was able to go to a couple different events in the district. Silver Lake Bingo at the Silver Lake Country Club last week was, what a turnout and what a great job they do putting that event together and raising money for their home and school league. So just wanted to give a shout out to them and thank them for inviting us to be celebrity quotation bingo callers. But it was a good event. And then the opening last night, again, Dr. Selleck already mentioned it, but of the Black Tiger Family Center, just the turnout and the support from our community, and just a thank you to everyone in the community and to Mrs. Merkel and everybody else that has been involved in making that a reality. I know for me personally, it's been on my little board of things that I wanted to see happen during the time that I served on the board. So I'm just glad it's the start of something that I know is going to continue to grow and be great for our district and for our families, and much needed. So, and I wish Kylie well in getting in her recovery.
Thank you, Ms. Coco. I'm next. I've been on my tour of elementary school opening year events, so I made it over to Lincoln for their back to school bash, which was very well attended and a lot of fun. Did not pet any of the animals at the petting zoo myself, not my thing.
Oh.
But my nephews had a great time, even though the turkey tried to bite one of my nephews. But he thought that was thrilling, so it was
He's so sweet.
it was a great turnout, a great event at Lincoln. And then last Friday went over to DeWitt's back to school bash. Again, another great turnout, well organized event, and great PTO there at DeWitt. And then I was also at Home and School League Bingo for Silver Lake. Again, the only board member to go all 3 years of it. So
They never ask. I never hear of these
they
things.
sent an email to all of us, Ms. White.
I don't remember, but, you know, I don't hear all these
It was there
PTO.
was an email.
Okay.
You were on the email.
Okay.
And then the Black Tiger Family Center was it was great, and I look forward to its continued success in meeting the needs of our families. Mr. Harris, you're up next.
Another congratulations to tonight's graduate, Ms. Kinker, and Ms. Oden for all the great work she's doing as well. I made the homecoming game on Friday. Just a shout out to Mr. Gesford for everything he does. I think it was very well, students were very well behaved. Everything seemed like it went smoothly. And then the Family Resource Center, just excellent work, Dr. Selico, team. I mean, it was just remarkable. The crowd was amazing. I mean, and Doc, you said it great. This community is amazing. I mean, we have just from the elected officials we have here, community members, stakeholders across the board. I mean, all the folks that just came together for our families it's just remarkable. So, as Mr. Gomez said, it's the start of something great. Ms. Coco said that too. So, I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes from here. So.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Mr. Schaefer?
Well, it was a lot of the same things that everyone else said. I will say for bingo, I get so stressed out calling bingo. But I feel like if you don't get yelled at least once for calling too fast or too slow, are you really calling bingo? So I did get yelled at once. But I did win 2 baskets. Well, I won 2 raffle baskets, and then I won the door prize. So I cannot wait to bake some brie on my new stoneware brie plate. And I got some coffee and a coffee mug, cup of coffee mug. So I'm pretty darn excited about that. And then I did get to go to senior night for the girls tennis team. You can tell some of the girls like they play in multiple sports and everything, but they hit those balls hard. I mean, like they swing. I bet it hurts when they get hit with a tennis ball. But yeah, it was very exciting. And they did have some El Mason there too, so that was also exciting. And yeah, that's it. Very exciting week.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Schaefer. Ms. White?
Yes, I have 2 obits of obituaries, former teachers. Some of the older folks might have had either one of these. Mr. Charlie Dawes died last week. He was a lifelong educator and master of many arts. Charlie taught world history, grammar, and speech, first in New Philadelphia and then in Cuyahoga Falls for over 38 years. He shared his love of art and world history at Bolick and Cuyahoga Falls High. He loved 9th graders, which surprises me. Whatever. But at any rate, they're fine, and was happy to say so. This is something I did not know, and I knew him personally, but I didn't know this. He had dyslexia, and he did not learn to read until he was 12. And from then on, he has become a reader in especially fiction, art history, world politics, religion, mysteries, and about anything else. So he really began to read. So yeah, we're sorry to lose Mr. Dawes. He was a great teacher. And our condolences to his family. Another teacher, Gary Dye. He taught biology at Cuyahoga Falls High School for 31 years, serving as the science department head for a number of years. He retired in 1995 at age 54. And he, again, was just really wonderful to work with. I only got to work with him a little bit and Mr. Dawes, but I did know them, and they were just so nice and just wonderful to work with, and we will miss them both. He, again, our condolences to their families for both teachers. And I just wanted to say that I did attend. I just have to get phone calls so that I know to go to things. I'm sorry, it's just the way that I am. So if you have something, PTOs, please give me a call. And otherwise, I will try to get there, but it is a little difficult for me sometimes. Any rate, I did attend the Black Tiger Family Center, and as Dr. Salko and the rest of our team up here said, it was wonderful. It was really something, and so many people came, and I'm so proud that we are doing that. I do have an article. It's not very long. My students flow their way to joyful learning. Yours can too. Does your school day have time for flow? Flow, if you don't already know, is a state first described and championed by Hungarian-American psychologist Mihaly, and I have no idea how to say his last name, but it's something like Csikszentmihalyi, after observing art students so focused on their craft that they lost themselves while creating, unaware of the outside world. Students in flow focused almost solely on process rather than the product. The enjoyment was in the journey itself. And I just think this is something that we should watch and hope our kids do. While implementing packaged curricula can be an efficient way to cover content if adopted with strict fidelity and unadulterated presentation of every lesson without supplementation, this rigidity prohibits the flow that the gentleman recognized as central to learning. A steady diet of scripted lessons can subtract spontaneity, deep learning, student passions, and teacher expertise from classrooms. She went on to say how she participated in the rollout of a well-regarded published writing curriculum, and it offered so many things on lessons, practice, instructional videos, slideshows, and some of the lessons looked similar to what she did, but the problem was they never finished, they never actually did a summary of their work, in other words, a essay. And you need to see kids engrossed in their work, whether it's writing essays when they really like the topic, whether it's an art project that they're working and creating, or a painting, or a music, a song, for instance, or even reading a good book. That flow, that is so important because that engages them and moves them a step closer to really becoming lifetime learners and enthusiastic learners. And finally, she says, teachers should be free to select the best lessons from a variety of sources and be trusted to use their knowledge and expertise to craft an experience tailored for their own students. Students should be allowed to lose themselves in flow. This is the way to persuade young students to come to their desks with enthusiasm every single day. So I just happen to like that article. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pike. Ms. Schaefer, did you forget something you wanted to mention?
I did. We recognized the high school PTSO, and I wanted to, Mrs. Keller is here, so I wanted to plug their event on the October 5th, 10 to 3, their vendor event here at the high school. There will be over 90 vendors there. Thank you for
It's going to be such a great event that my sister's flying up from Florida for it. Not really, but she is. She said, "What are we doing that day?" I said, "I don't know, but I know how we're
From 10
starting
to
our
3.
day at the craft show."
And then-
So
October 5th,
Okay. And
over
then
90 vendors. Thank you for letting me backtrack. I
in the
know-
cafeteria.
that weekend, but I might have to give my order.
I believe so.
Thanks for telling me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
And
that brings us to item J, executive session.
okay.
Pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, section 121.22G6, it is hereby moved the board adjourn to executive session to consider details relative to the security arrangements and emergency response protocols for a public body or public office if disclosure of the matters discussed could reasonably be expected to jeopardize the security of the public body or public office.
I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Who moved? I'm sorry.
I'm moved.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye. We're in executive session at 7:15 PM.